So the primary heating source now is a geothermal unit shown here on the floor. It's a very small unit, primarily because our heat loads in this house, as we discussed in an earlier issue of this series, are very, very high. The source of water for this heat pump, or the source of heat in geothermal, is actually our well that produces our domestic water. We draw water out of the well just like we would when we're running the shower or whatever, run it through a heat coil inside the unit, and put the water right back into the well. And we're taking about 5 degrees out of that water, which is at about 45 degrees year-round as it enters the geothermal unit. We take 5 degrees out and put it right back into the well. We remove the water from the bottom of the well and we return it back to the top of the well. And as that cooled water sinks down to the bottom, since colder water sinks, the ground is going to warm it back up to its 45 degrees. As long as you're not taking the heat out too rapidly, you will maintain a 40-45 degree water temperature in your well. The geothermal heat pump then transfers that 5 degrees to the heat storage tank. Geothermal can raise that temperature up to about 120 degrees maximum, and therefore is very much only useful with a radiant floor or low temp heating system. Forced hot air would work very well as well, but basically radiant floors or radiant panels are primarily the only heat distribution system you can use with the geothermal. Geothermal uses a lot of electricity, as I mentioned earlier in the series. So we've put an additional controller on it such that if the batteries are drained down below about 50% of their capacity, we will shut the geothermal unit off. It's using too much electricity, and we will rely on another backup to produce heat in that situation. The system is engineered such that the geothermal unit ought to be able to supply enough heat spring, summer, and fall, and that's space heating and domestic hot water for those border seasons, and produce about 50% of the need in the wintertime. One last thing about the geothermal and the well, using the well to supply your heat and your domestic hot water, or your domestic water source. What you want to do is have a very intelligent well pump. Because you're pumping water for both domestic use and also for your geothermal, what we've installed here is a variable speed drive 3-phase pump running at 240 volts with 2 pressure settings. When the geothermal unit is running, the pump will develop a pressure of 20 psi. That pump will tend to run anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour at a time, running the geothermal unit to heat up your tank. When there's a call for domestic water of any form, the pump will immediately ramp up to 60 psi. So you get 60 psi of pressure to support your showers and your dishwashers and whatever else you're using for water for. All done automatically. It's whenever there's a spigot opened or a faucet turned on, this thing will immediately ramp up to 60 psi. So it's very efficient, uses minimal electricity, which is key for an off-grid home.